Hi, I'm Tara from Marathon Mates. This week we are joined by our marathon mate, Wayne Cooley from Cooley Health Clinic, to talk about body maintenance and why it is important for all runners. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Welcome back to the Flying RuNR. On this episode, we are joined by Wayne Cooley from Cooley Health Clinic here in Brisbane. Wayne is a triathlete and a runner who has competed in many triathlons and Ironman events across Australia and the world, including the world-famous Hawaiian Ironman in Kona. He's also spent a lot of time with myself and Tim working on our bodies and providing us with some fantastic tips and advice. Welcome to our podcast, Wayne.
Welcome, Wayne.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
been quite some time we've been seeing you, I guess, and
Yeah.
welcome aboard to the podcast. As you know, this is fairly new for all of us, I guess.
yeah.
And absolutely welcome, Wayne. Tim and Tara wax lyrical about what you do and the advice that you've provided them during their running journey. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's chat.
Yeah, it's been good sharing the journey with these guys and helping them maintain their bodies along the way and keep them out there going.
Definitely wouldn't be out here doing what we do without you, Wayne. So thank you very much. Yeah, it's great. So I guess we'll give a bit of a rundown on what's been happening this week, what our training's been like, park run. Team Alice are finally coming out of that rut that we've been in and starting to run again. What park run did we do again?
So
we were run directors.
We were run directors this week at Bunyaville. So
Oh, wow.
we were run directors there for about 4, maybe 5 years straight, and then gave it up a couple of years ago. Just too many things happening at that stage of our life. But it was good. We come back every once in a while. We're still officially run directors there, but we just don't do it. And we just help out every once in a while. But it was good to get back there and do the run directing. And we're back there again this weekend as well for a second stint. So it's our final encore performance, I guess.
Yeah.
Johnny Farnham, we just keep coming back.
Do you know one thing that really...
Yeah.
One thing that really impressed me about that, Tim and Tara, was you put the post out on social media and then all of a sudden you've got people putting their hand up to help out or to do this or to do that. And I just think that that's really just a great indicator of what the community is all about, the parkrun community, how people get excited about volunteering and supporting. So, yeah, I thought just from an outsider looking in, I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Parkrun doesn't happen without volunteers, and it's a really good, friendly community. So for those who haven't tried parkrun, it's worthwhile getting up, going off to your local parkrun on a Saturday morning and giving it a shot, because it is a friendly, family environment type thing, community spirited. Yes, you have your super fast runners there, your elites. You have some Olympic level athletes as well that will turn up. But you have a lot of just normal people who like to be social, who like to go for a bit of a jog, a bit of a run. They turn up and it's their regular catch up every week with their parkrun friends.
Yeah, and the good thing with the volunteering, you can still run and volunteer at the same time. So you can do like a pre-event setup, or you can do a pre-course check or something like that, and then you can run and you can get a volunteer and a run, or you can be a pacer. So you can run it like, I'm going to help people get to 20-minute pace this week, which would be a Wayne time, not me. There's a lot of different options for volunteering. It doesn't mean that you give up your run necessarily either. So it's a really good way to give back to what we really enjoy.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that just turn up every week just to volunteer. They don't actually run either, and they just like the community aspect of it and being part of it all. And like we did on Saturday after parkrun. Once you pack everything up, you go off for a cup of coffee and catch up with some of the people afterwards. So it's really good that way. And then
into it, brings the fun back into running again, and you never know who you're going to run into. Sometimes, like Mitchy parkrun, you might run into an Ash Gentle or some of the really good triathletes. They use them for good little practice hit outs in their training. They can come along and it's an enjoyment, but still it's a good, strong, hard workout if you want to take it that way too. So
it's like a little miniature race and a time trial in itself for those that want to use it that way.
Yeah. I know a lot of the triathletes around the neighbourhood here are using it for their training, and it keeps they're full on with their training, so it brings like the fun back into their training. They can go and do a park run, and there's not the pressure that they've got in their normal scenario of everyday racing. So they're good little practice hit outs for them, and
absolutely.
And Tony, what did you get up to over the weekend?
Well, we had an interesting week. So after we spoke about getting into a rut, I think I might have fallen into a rut. So, but it was interesting. I was not looking forward to my Wednesday evening run, and so I had some wise words ringing in my ears saying, "Tony, every run should have a purpose." So I just looked at my, since I'm now on Garmin, of course, I can get my PBs in a whole range of distances. So I just went out for a 3K run simply to get my 1 kilometer best time and my 1 mile best time. And that was it. That's all I wanted to do. And just do a little bit of a stretch and a hit out. And it was fun. And I got both those PBs. So I think this week I'm going to potentially look at doing the same thing for a 5 and just going out there and trying to hit it. Our long run was interesting. We once again just aimed at 22. So that's our 3rd week in a row we've knocked over 22. But we then walked, tried to get a really good pace up with walking for 3. So 25K on the legs. And then this week we're just going to, we're now trying to think about the strategy for Berlin and Chicago. And so this week we're going to go test, I suppose, do a goal pace run and trying to knock over 25K running and then 5K additional to that, just to see how that feels. So it was a good weekend, and really enjoyed starting to think more about the strategy around how we're going to hit Berlin and Chicago.
Yeah, because you've got the marathon double 2 weeks apart. So from Wayne's perspective, they run Berlin, back it up 2 weeks later and do Chicago marathon. So any tips that you can pass on around body maintenance to Tony and to his wife Sharon would be quite handy. I'm sure.
Well, I guess it's a strategy, right? It depends on how you want to perform in each one, whether you want to use Berlin as a step into the Chicago race, or or you use that as a bit of a training kind of venture, or if you're hitting that hard, if you're going to hit Berlin hard, then kind of thinking, okay, well, we just got to recover, get our body right, and Chicago is going to be a good kind of bit more enjoyment factor coming into it, depending on how serious you want to take it, I guess, on the level and the seriousness that you want to a few different strategies. But I guess after you want to be doing sort of a marathon, obviously that first, there's not much you're going to be really doing between Berlin and Chicago. So you're going to be wanting to do some nice recovery massage the first week, because you're going to have a lot of micro tearing in the muscle. So when you've stressed your body so much, that's what that soreness is that you're getting after the marathon, is all of those little micro tears in the muscle. So you don't want to be doing like deep therapeutic kind of massage at that point. It's more just flushing the muscle out and more recovery type massage. So that's what we, as therapists, we've got to read not even just after you're racing, but coming into your race, there's times when you're having really hard sessions, and there's times when you might come in for a massage and you need more of a flush out type of massage.
Yeah.
So you've done a couple of big breakthrough sessions, you've done some intervals, or you've done a bit of tempo sort of stuff, and each time you've got to read people's body a bit differently. Whereas the next time you come in, it might be, you've gone through a bit of adaptation phase, you've had a bit of a recovery week, the muscles are kind of feeling a little bit better. So then it's a time to maybe dig a little bit deeper and see if there's any little points of the pain, like any parts of your body that are needing some, little bit of realignment of the hips or any kind of therapeutic sort of stuff that you can do in that time. So
and you're very good at
changes from week to week. Yeah.
In regards to the strategy, Wayne, I think the strategy is really simple. We were going to treat Berlin as the long run for Chicago, but ultimately, I think Berlin will be a race, and then Chicago, I'll be holding on to it for as long as I possibly can. So it's not much of a strategy, but I'm positive that we'll get there.
Yeah, and I guess you take it as it comes. If your body's up on that particular day and you make a call on it, you might get to halfway at Berlin and you might be just having one of those amazing days, and you make that decision today. Okay, my strategy's changed and I'm going for it today. You're having one of those magic days, and then you just see what happens for the next one.
Absolutely.
So it's just read it on the day, I guess.
So what have you been doing since Sunny Coast then, Wayne? So you've raced Sunny Coast at the same time as we did last week. What have you been doing for your recovery?
I had a little bit of a transitional week after Sunny Coast, like just humming along a little bit, because I didn't really train specifically for it. I kind of came in because a mate was a bit injured, so I took his spot. So I hadn't really done hadn't done anything really over an hour of running really for a good month. So I knew towards, getting towards that 15K mark, I was going to be a bit not feeling the best. So for me, it was just getting back out there. I haven't done anything for a while. So I thought something here's my chance to actually get back into doing something again, kickstart myself, just to get a bit of a starting point of getting back into training a bit. But I just had a bit of a transitional week. I did a lot of walk running through the trails. I did a bit of because I do triathlon as well, so I did a bit of a swim block. So I wanted to get back into swimming, so I hit the swimming 4 times for the week. So a bit less impacting, but still, which I guess like a lot of runners can build into their training, the cross training that we do as triathletes, I think would be very beneficial. Like for you're saying about your week from Berlin, I don't know if you've got access to a pool, but it's really good, like just doing a bit of water running. You don't have to actually even really swim, to be honest. You can just get in the water and stretch your muscles out and just do a bit of kicking with a kickboard, because when you're doing that kicking motion in the water, we have like swim offs all the time. Sometimes after a park run or a long run, you might go and do a little swim. We call it a swim off. So when you're doing that, you're getting the water is actually massaging your muscles, believe it or not. It's kind of because that's how your lymphatic system works. It relies on your muscles contracting and relaxing to pump the lymphatics through your body. A bit different to our blood, your circulation system. We've got a heart that pumps blood, hopefully. So, but lymphatic system just relies on muscle contraction and relaxing, and that's what squeezes and relaxes the lymphatics in our body. Pretty great system, but that's what the swimming will do. It'll do a bit of that, so you lymphatically, and it'll just flush your muscles out a little bit, and good for recovery. So, it's kind of good little strategies to add in.
Excellent.
So I guess we should probably talk about our normal marathon news segment, and then we can come back to Wayne on his tips and tricks. But so our marathon segment, Tim, you want to take it off with what's going on, or
I'll have a a crack at it. So I did a bit of research this week because I've talked about in the past that there's 3 candidate events for the 7th World Marathon Major Star. That being Sydney, we've talked about Cape Town, and the third one is Chengdu Marathon in China. So I decided to have a look at that. The race has been held this year on the 29th of October, so not that far away. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of information on the race on their website or how to sign up on their website. The website's quite old. It's actually from about 2022 or even earlier. There's stuff on there from 2019 as well. I can't read Chinese, but so maybe it comes back to the English translation. When you hit the English translation tab on the website, it might be a bit delayed. I'm not sure. But what I could work out is, and the other thing to note is the Chinese don't have a social media presence on things like Facebook and Instagram. They have their own social media things that I didn't bother looking up. So I'm not exactly done a lot of research in a true and accurate way. But they do have a lottery process. The lottery process kicks in when they get about 25,000 participants. Most years they get 25,000 or more participants. So it's a big race. So I can understand why it's been selected as a candidate race by the World Marathon Majors. Tara, you'd like this. Their mascot is a panda bear, and it's featured on their website. It's featured on their medals and T-shirts and things like that. So it's probably in panda country, I would suggest.
Well, that gets my vote straight off just to have that.
Yeah.
So.
Doing the best I could interpret from the website and looking at the course, it's a point-to-point course. So you start in one end of Chengdu and then run down through the main area of Chengdu, come out the other side, do a sort of 180-degree turn, and then come back and finish in the middle of the course, in the middle of the city, in a big park area. Overall, the course is largely a net downhill course with no big climbs, but the real kicker is it's one continuous climb uphill, gradually uphill from 35 to 40 Ks. So, yeah. Like when you look at the gradient curves, that
I just lost my vote now.
It's just one gradual climb up this hill for the last sort of 5 Ks of the run. And then good news is once you hit 40 Ks, it flattens out as you come into the finish. But 6 hour, 15-minute cutoff. And entry, here's the great thing, as far as I could work out trying to do the between Chinese yuan and Australian dollars, it works out to be about $50 Australian per person. So it's a cheap one. Wonder how it will go if it's that cheap when it becomes a World Marathon Major, if it does. But yeah, for a candidate race, there wasn't a lot of information I could find on it. Not a lot of welcoming stuff for outsiders outside of China to come in to the race itself. So yeah, I guess looking at the 3 races, looking at their social media presence, looking at what they're putting out there, I'd say Sydney's winning it, and that's not me being biased. That's what I'm seeing, and maybe it's because their race is only just under 4 weeks away. Cape Town's up there with Sydney, but probably not in the same sphere as marketing and social media presence.
And the same participants that have been entered either at the moment.
No, and then Chengdu would be a long way behind as far as competing at a world level. So I think looking at things, I would say Sydney's very much in the box seat. It's theirs to lose the 7th star. But as we've said in the past, they need to have 15,000 finishes for a couple of years in a row. They need to obviously have the worldwide presence, and they obviously need to be able to draw crowds and all the rest of it when they host their races. So there's a long way to go, I think, between they do them. But if anyone is interested, you can sign up for Chengdu. Good luck if you can work out how to do it through their website. But yeah,
please email us with the tips and tricks. We'd love to pass them on to people.
And maybe we've got a big Chinese contingent listening to this podcast, and they can, message us and let us know how to get into the Chengdu Marathon.
Yep. So should we go into the World Championship?
Yeah.
Athletics?
Yeah. It's I've sort of been inundated since we started this podcast on my social media feed now with all sorts of running events, and the World Athletic Championships are on. And really sad news from Safan Hassan, who fell just 20 meters from the finish line in the 10,000 meters. Now, she was coming last and she'd hit the front, and she ended up finished because there was a little bit of jostling between her and the winner, and the winner was Gudaf Tuskay. And I've got the names this week, Tara.
Thanks, Tony.
Hassan finished in 11th ultimately with a time of 31:53 and 31:53 and 0.35 of a second. And the Ethiopians...
That's a pretty shitty time for a 10K, isn't it? 31:53 when you fell over.
Absolutely. Ethiopians were all on the podium. We had Tuskay, we had Giddy, and we had Tay all on the podium. The winning time was 31:27 and 18 tenths of a second. Now, Hassan is just amazing in my eyes. She's through to the finals of the 1500, where she was third fastest in 3:55. Aussie Jessica Hull is also in the final with a time of 3:57. And then we've got Hassan backing up to run the Chicago Marathon in 7 weeks. So just an amazing athlete. 10,000, 1,500, and let's do the marathon. She's just blowing minds, I'd imagine, right around the athletics world.
Yep, that's awesome. So,
yeah, crazy how quick they can run.
That's great. So thanks, guys. So we're going to turn our attention now to the main topic, which is actually Wayne. So and some body maintenance. We're very privileged to have Wayne here join us. Before we start talking about body maintenance, though, we always ask our guests the same questions. These are super tough, so I hope you've got your thinking cap on. When did you first get into running and the triathlons, and why?
I got into running about mid-90s through just off-season. I was right into soccer, played a lot of soccer as a junior coming through, and just wanted to add something to the training, give me something to do in the off-season of training. And so I kind of got into triathlon. I thought that'd be a good all-round, I could work on a bit of strength on the bike, bit of that cross-training kind of aspect to it. So, yeah, believe it or not, I found it quite soccer's a lot of running, but it's all anaerobic type running. It's a lot of stop-start, and you've got to be fast to the ball and a lot of that type of running. So I thought, I'll have the running down pat, but it was kind of like challenging to run at a constant speed. So that's what drew me to it. I was like, my God, this is like a different, and plus running off a bike after you've done a swim and the whole jelly leg experience of that. So, but yeah, initially got into it to keep fit off season of soccer, and just fell in love with not just the running aspect, but the whole triathlon aspect of it. But yeah, I really found the running was challenging because I had the big, obviously soccer players, we have big quad muscles. So I had a fair bit of, had some tree trunks to carry around the run course too, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, I just found it challenging, a new challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess you've been doing this, for 30 odd years now, this whole triathlon and running gig. What is your favorite event that you have done so far? Like, it can be a triathlon or it can be an Ironman running race. What would be your favorite all-time thing that you've done?
Yeah, there's probably a couple, but I guess like I got drawn into Noosa Triathlon to start with. Like, it was kind of the thing back then that everyone wanted to do was do the Noosa Triathlon. So I actually did the Noosa Triathlon. We're up there massaging, and I got thrown an entry, and I wasn't even really planning to do it. And I got this old bike that I got my hands on, which was this old fluoro yellow black spec thing. So it was, this really radical kind of bike, but they chucked me into it, and I thought, oh, well, what the heck, I'll do it. And I sort of can remember that race. I was kind of like so proud that I finished it because I'd never swum 1,500 meters. as you guys know, as runners don't generally like to swim too much, except for probably Tim, who started out as a swimmer. I know we talked about your swimming, but I remember swimming that swim. Actually, I swam. It was in the canal at that point. They do it out in the ocean now, but it was in the canal. And back then, if you never kind of knew how triathlon started back then, but it was a mass start, so probably didn't get myself in the best position, and we got smashed a bit in the opening kind of start of the swim. And I remember standing up on the opposite bank to where we started, and I think I walked half or 3/4 of the swim leg. So I just walked the canals, walking under jetties and everything. But I ended up finishing the swim, and got on my beautiful fluoro yellow black spec. I still know where that bike is to this day. I lent it. I gave it to a friend. He reckoned he was going to do it up, but he's had it for about 20 years now. Going to do it up. Won't return it to me, but he's still got it to this day. And it was, I think it was a 6-speed thing, and it was like crazy thing it was. But anyway, it got me there, and then got to the run, and back then it was like a 3-loop course, so it was kind of 3K laps. And it was just super exciting. So many people doing it, and you could just see so many people that you knew on every lap. And that was pretty special. Finished in the first triathlon of that distance. Yeah. So that was probably one. And then as I got onto it further and further, I was never ever going to do an Ironman. And I remember doing my first half Ironman at Cabarita, actually, back in the day. It was because you used to have to qualify to actually do an Australian Ironman. Like people these days say, we've got to qualify to do Hawaii. But back in the day, we had to qualify to actually do which was in Foster at the time, Tuncurry. Yeah. So, I lined up and started doing this Cabarita race. It was a qualifier. And so I actually qualified to do Ironman in Foster, and they gave me the call out to do it. And I said, no way, I'm going to do an Ironman. But that was kind of in that, looking back at it, that was a little bit of a regret at the time, because like at that point, Foster Tuncurry was, like it's an iconic kind of race, because they don't do it there anymore. They do Port Macquarie now as our Australian Ironman championship race. So that was kind of a little bit of a regret at the time. But I remember at that time, there's no way I was gonna do Foster. But stepping up and doing that first half was a big step. And then as I got older, and that I thought, I was never ever going to do an Ironman. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to do my first Ironman. So Cairns is going to be it. I thought, this is going to be great. This is going to be so much fun. I'm going to have so much fun with this. And I did my first Ironman 2014 in Cairns, and it just was torrential rain for the whole day. The whole day. It was the coldest day in 100 years. From the time we got there, it was just, and I mean rain. It's rain. It's pouring down. I'm thinking, this is just going to clear up. This is going to be for the swim, and then it's going to be clear. But I actually got hypothermia that day, and I didn't think I was going to finish because it was just crazy cold day. And coming back last 60 Ks, you got to ride 180 Ks. Last 60 Ks, coming straight into a headwind, into this torrential rain with no wind vest. So I just did not think that I would need a wind vest on up in Cairns. But I kind of got off the bike, and I remember looking down at my legs and everything. When you're going into hypothermia, as you know, you really had lockjaw, and your legs just start quivering uncontrollably. And the guy in transitions going, mate, are you going to be able to get out and do this? Are you going to be able to? And I said, look, I'm going to give this a go. I'm either going to be back here in about a minute's time, or I'm going to run this out and finish this race. And luckily I got running, and I think I kind of about 5K, 10K into the run, it finally, I started to feel normal again. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to finish there for a while, but it was, yeah, whoever did that race that year, I mean, I did it tough, and I did 10 hours, I think 10 hours, 15 or 20 or something from memory. The cutoff time was 17 hours, and you had people going, like taking them like 17 hours to complete it, finishing in the middle of the night in those kind of conditions where it's pouring down rain all night. That was, pretty challenging race.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Fancy going to one of the nicest places in the world and being greeted with that. So,
it was unbelievable.
But it sort of leads into our next question, because you've just talked about a race that was tough. So how do you motivate yourself, Wayne, when things do get tough, either when you're in training or you're in a race itself?
Yeah, I've kind of prided myself over the years. I think I've only DNF'd a couple of times, and that was from mechanicals or a flat tire that I haven't been able to change. So I think
or a
sometimes
trailer that jumped up and hit your bike.
Yeah. So I just kind of got this mentality that for every race I do, I want to finish it. And I think sometimes to my detriment, sometimes I've been on drips at the end of races a couple of times from pushing pretty hard. But I guess to motivate you, just want to try and get the best out of your body. But I guess as you get older, you've got to actually respect your body a bit too, and know there comes a point where that it's a bit silly to push on sometimes too. You got to know your boundaries, and hopefully, it's you're not out there to kill yourself, obviously. But that motivation comes through your training, all the hard work of training you put in leading up to it. As Tim and Tara, I know you guys, you just put in all those long runs, and you just want to. It's the last thing you want to do is pull out of a race when you put in all that training.
That's supposed to be the reward for all those long runs and the hard part, and where you feel like giving up. The race is supposed to be that, and sometimes it doesn't work that way. But you draw from those really bad training runs or those hard times, and you just go, if I can make it through that, I'm sure I can make it through this. So because
usually, like, you've trained for that A race or your main race, you're putting in 4 months of hard training. And I know when I went and did Hawaii, so I did qualify to do Hawaii eventually through Melbourne Ironman. I was training 20 plus hours a week and trying to work. So you're putting in a lot of work on top of your work life, big commitment wise. So last thing you want to do is not finish basically.
Yes. So speaking of races and training and all that sort of stuff, what are you training for next?
That's a good question. I've kind of have to reevaluate. I've kind of ticked off a few things in my bucket list. So Hawaii was one of those bucket list things to qualify through and do that. So I'm playing around with a few things in my mind at the moment, whether I go down a bit more of a trail running kind of thing, that I might want to tick off some boxes there and doing some trail events. I think I want to start to do some halves again and just try and get my half marathon times down under that 120 again. Like I have done sort of like a 118 before. So I don't know if that's achievable now, but I think with a bit of but that was off the back of triathlon training. So with a run-based focus, maybe I can get under that 120 again. So maybe setting myself a goal of under a 120 marathon at some point again. So just a bit of a refocus. And
that'd be nice. I'd be still 15 minutes at least off that.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that for 15Ks. So
it's all relative to what your what your potential is, but right, like as you look at Monaghetti's is still running crazy. I think he broke that park run time. Was that last year or was that earlier this year? He did, and he's 60 now, and he did. I think he ran he was definitely under 16 minutes for a 5K park run at 60. So
yeah,
he kind of has inspired me a little bit actually with that. If Monas can do that still now, I'm thinking, okay, well maybe I can push it.
So tell us a little bit about your business as well, Wayne. Like, so you've got Cooley Health Clinic that you run with Susie. Tell us about what it does. How long have you guys been in business, and what sort of services do you guys provide at Cooley Health?
Yeah, so we do acupuncture as well and some dry needling. We've got I've got 3 therapists working there with me, and we do a lot of classes that vary from Pilates, which is great for runners for core stability work, all of that kind of stuff, and glute activations and all of the things that runners kind of need. But we do a lot of other kind of classes. I don't know if you guys have heard of bar classes, but they're a really good kind of. They use ballet bars, and it's all kind of functional strength training. So if you've never done a bar class before, I guarantee you, if you go and do one, you'll definitely feel your backsides at the next day, because I tried it and I thought this is going to be quite, I'll be able to get through this quite easily. But yeah, it's kind of, you're working off the bar and you're doing a lot of one-legged stuff too, which is good for runners to do one-legged and balancing. And so you're doing a lot of kickbacks. And I don't know if you've seen like a lot what the canyons and that do. They do a lot of those kickbacks and stuff. They do a lot of that kind of stuff. So it really does strengthen through those areas. We've added in some boxing now. So we've got a couple of really good boxing instructors down there. So, which we incorporate a little bit of strength training into that with abdominal sort of stuff as well. So it's kind of like a boxing come strength training. Rowi's a bit of a killer. She adds in killer like jump squats or split squats or something like that, which is kind of good strength work. And we've added in some trampoline classes, like the mini trampoline, which is great for runners as well. Like if you ever get a chance to go on YouTube and have a look at some of the mini tramp stuff that they're doing these days, there's some really crazy fast workouts on there. You think it's going to be easy, but you're burning a lot of calories, and you actually got to be pretty strong to do it. I think they burn nearly 400 to 500 calories in a section of that. So yeah, we've got a few different things that we've added into the clinic. We do a little bit of like yoga classes as well. So Cherie, one of our yogi instructors, she does a bit of different types of yoga. So we've added in like a bit more, like I think they call it yin yoga, where it's a bit more kind of just chilling out a little bit too. So we've got that, and we've got even a nutritional kind of health coaching side of the business as well. So there's a lot happening within the business at the moment. So Susie does all of the health coaching and a bit of nutritional kind of advice and just eating healthy and just helping people get back to the basics of good nutrition and getting the best out of your body, because as we know, you got to fuel your body right to get the best out of it. And it's a big part. We talk about all of our training and everything like that. The massage is one component. There's no really one component that is obviously going to give you the best performance. So you got to, as the pros call it, do all your little 1%ers. So diet and looking after your diet is another big part of it as well. So away from those inflammatory foods. Sugar, just to name one.
So good though.
I live
by an 80-20 rule. Like you can have if you're eating 80% good and 20%, you can add in a little bit of stuff here and there. But if you're living by the other way around, if it's 80% bad and 20% good, then you could have a look at it.
So a chocolate thick shake after our long runs is okay, as long as we only do it after every, 5th or 6th long run?
Well, it's interesting you say that.
We're trying to get a McDonald's sponsorship.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, but chocolate milk's one of your best post-race drinks you can drink, because if you're ever going to have high GI foods, that's probably the best time to have it, is straight after a run, because all your muscle and your body's glycogen is being depleted. So your muscles are going to suck it up and use that and get your blood sugars back up, so you can obviously function and not go crazy. You don't want to go blood sugar low.
Yeah.
But my justification now, every long run.
Yeah. So that's where sports nutrition kind of varies a little bit from someone who's trying to look after their diet. It's all timing of these foods, knowing when to have the high GI foods, knowing when to, okay, I've had that post, now I better get back on to having the low GI foods, and having that good slow release of energy through the day, and getting your good proteins in for muscle recovery. And it's getting a bit off the massage side of it, but it's still very, very important, obviously, to take care of those parts of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so the theme tonight is about body maintenance. So to you, Wayne, what is body maintenance? What would you say is body maintenance?
Well, body maintenance is a lot of things. I think you can say teaching people to be body aware as well. I talk to you guys a lot about it when you come in for your massage, is to be body aware and read your own body. Everybody's body is different. Everybody can handle different volumes of training, different intensities of training. So reading your body is key to, obviously, in your training, professional athletes take their body right to that cutting edge of performance. So they're getting really close to that razor's edge. So they've got to be really, really good at reading your body. So does amateur runners. You got to know in your training, through previous training cycles that you've been through, when you're getting close to that razor's edge of training, that you need, okay, my volume's gone up, or maybe I've just, okay, bang, I've got to bring this back a little bit. It's all right to bring it back a bit. You got a training regime that you're doing, you got to know when to hold it back a bit. So that's kind of one aspect of it, of being aware of it yourself, if you want to stay injury free, because you can come to me and I can do all the massages and all of that, but you've got to be able to read your body well. So key is to reading your body well. And where I come into it is you can come into me and you'll say you're halfway through a training cycle, and then we're massaging different areas of the body, and I can check out all your hip alignments, so we can kind of see what's going on with hip alignments. You guys get tight through your hips. I know you both have different areas of your body, so I can go, okay, Tara, we've got to be a bit careful of that. That's getting close to, pushing it a bit too far. So it's kind of that part of it. And I guess when you're doing that maintenance, it comes into where you are in your training too. Like, if you're coming closer to that back end where you're coming close to your racing, you've got that A race coming up, your training volume's coming up, your intensity coming up. So you might factor in a few more massages. You might normally have one massage every 3 to 4 weeks. And then you're coming into that last little push, and you go, okay, I'm going to get one every week for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and just stay on top of things a little bit there. So it's kind of different phases of your training. You can phase that in a little bit more. Obviously, like the pro athletes that I do work on, you got to think of those guys are like Formula One racing cars. So you might think that Formula One racing cars mightn't need as much mechanical work done on them because they're the best cars in the world. But you've got mechanics working on them, fine-tuning them all the time. Same with professional athletes. They're pushing their limits all the time. So they're in once every week. They're coming in as, recovery massaging and if you're talking about Kipchoge, he's got someone working on him every day, probably, or they've got their entourage of people that they've got working on them day in, day out. So, but realistically, for your everyday runner, like once every 3 to 4 weeks, and then doing your rolling at home, doing your Pilates, doing a bit of stretching, bit of your cross training if you want to add in that bit of swimming or a bit of bike riding, and sort of doing all of those things that you're not breaking your body down too much, and set yourself realistic goals.
I like how he refers to you and me, Tara, as professional runners.
That's because he's seeing us all the time. But speaking of seeing us all the time, I guess with us, our bodies very well. Like, there's nobody else that my body probably better than Tim does, because there's not one other person that touches me, and I mean that in non-sexual way. That sounded really bad.
I
think I'll just shut him down.
Oh my God.
But straight away, like you'll come in, you'll be like, right, your training plan is you've done this amount of kilometers. Yeah. You know exactly on my body where to work. Yeah. And you know when to ease it off more than I do even. Yeah. And you'll be sitting there saying to me, Tara, do this. So tell us a little bit about what the difference between a remedial massage, which is like what Tim and I get done, or just a relaxation massage, which sometimes, at the end you might be nice to us and just go, you're nice.
I mean, getting back to what you were saying before, everyone's got different body issues, and when I treat someone for the first time, it's kind of like I'm scanning over a body. You might think that I'm looking at the skin. I'm not really looking at the skin. I'm looking at all the muscular tissues underneath, and I'm scanning the body. So the first time I work on someone might come in with a hamstring issue, but there could be a bit of hiking of a hip or a rotation of a hip or something like that. So
that's me. I'm
dealing with the injury that they've come in with, but there's a lot of things that have actually compensate around that injury as well. So you got to look at the body as a whole picture, and I guess that's getting back to what you're saying before. Yeah, as the more sessions that you're getting, I can read your body so well now, because when you first come in, I'm still kind of trying to figure this bit of a puzzle out. It's like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. But the more I treat somebody, I just go, bang, I know where to go. I know the areas. I know where your problem areas are. So, so that's kind of interesting that you said that. I do get to know everybody's bodies. I've had people that I've worked on for 10 years. I go bang straight to it, and I know, and you can just read their body so well, because it's like a mechanic that's worked on a car for say someone's car for 10 years or whatever. It's exactly the same thing. You get to know people's body, and you know when to make little suggestions. Say, okay, I think you're pushing this a little bit hard, but you got to pull back a little bit at the moment. You're getting close to that. So I do that. I do read people's body and recommend sometimes that they do pull back a bit, or no, everything's going great at the moment. You're on song, keep it going. So yeah.
We better give Tony a question.
Yeah, Tony. You're not asking enough questions.
Well, to be honest, I've got to be disappointed. The bar training wasn't just about bending the elbow. Because I was thinking here's something that I could really get into, but okay, it was a little bit more than that. But as older runners, and I'm a little bit older than Tim and Tara. Yeah. What are some of the typical problems you see with older runners, and what tips can you give people like myself for us to help us strengthen and make us a little bit more resilient? And as a great starting point, I have had a real horror time with my calves.
Yeah.
Over the last, where's some wood? I better knock on wood. Over the last 12 months, they've been pretty good. But prior to that, especially when I was getting into running, I would tear my calves on a regular basis until I learned how to strengthen them and to have them able to withstand the force that they take on when you run. But what are some of the tips that you can give some of the older runners out there?
Yeah, I think like obviously with running, it's very repetitive, right? So the main kind of injuries that you see with older runners is repetitive strain injuries. So your Achilles tendonitis, your straining of the calf muscles. So yeah, I think as you get older, you've got to be, some people play around with their training blocks a little bit too. Like this is getting into a bit more strategies on how you're training, as well as like as far as what I'm doing with what I'm seeing with massage. We're talking about a bit of like training programming and stuff like that. So some people work in, if you're doing periodized kind of training programs, some people do blocks of 4, some people, sometimes you might go, okay, bring it back to blocks of 3. So you go on 2 weeks on, 1 week off, see how that works for you. If you're getting these repetitive strain injuries, play around with your, whether you want to call it a recovery week or an adaptation week. There's so many different ways people call these things these days. But I guess, and just being, like what I was saying before, be aware that you can, if you're feeling and reading your body, if you are feeling that that something's not right, and you feel like it's like Arthur Lydiard used to say. He used to say, train, don't strain. So what he's saying there is like, yeah, you're going out and training, but if you're feeling like you're straining too much all the time as older athletes, yeah, you can do that when you're younger, through your 20s, early 20s, and you can strain a little bit more. You're pushing a bit harder. But as you get older, as we all know, we need a little bit more recovery. But as you get older, you've got to realize that you've got a lot more miles in the bank too. You've got a big aerobic base to draw on. So if you're pulling back those long runs a little bit, you've still got a big base to draw on, like how I did that Sunny Coast on the weekend. I didn't really train for that. That was just miles in the bank from years of doing it and knowing how to hurt a little bit and knowing when to, that last 15, when I got to 5K to go, it's like, okay, I made a call. I can really write myself off here and be totally written off for a week. Or do I make the smart decision and go, okay, well, I'm going to back this off now, and this is going to be a good training hit out. I've got what I've wanted out of this session. I can pull back now, and I can use this as a building block to go, okay, I can build something out of this. Or, I could have written myself off and there would be nothing to build from, because it'd take me 2 or 3 weeks to recover. I could have went maybe a 126 or 127, but what's the point? I'm buggered for another month. So you got to realize, and it's getting to the start line, like with you with Berlin, you want to get to the starting line ready to fight. So you're not going to be ready to fight if you've overtrained and you've pushed out too many miles and you haven't read your body correctly. So
good point.
It's just just be sensible. Your body will tell you. You just got to listen to it. That's the main thing I tell people. You just got to listen to what your body is telling you. And sometimes what I tell a lot of even the younger runners that are coming through, give yourself a rating out of 10 each week. You shouldn't be rating yourself at the end of a week, oh, I'm feeling 9 out of 10, or I'm feeling 10 out of 10 on a fatigue. That means you're straining too much in your training. So if you're you're giving yourself I rate myself a 7 this week, a 6 this week. So always just give yourself ratings on how you're feeling each week, and note that down at the end of the week. I'm feeling about 9 this week. If you're feeling that, you got to pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
excellent.
But like add in some of those. I know you might not be the swimmer, but add in, if you are feeling a little bit shabby and you still want to continue a little bit of training. And even if you don't want to go out on the road, there's wind trainer bikes you can get on. There's a little bit of bike riding, and you can get in the pool and do that little bit of. Like I said, you don't need to be a good swimmer to be able to realize the benefits of the swimming aspect of it, and try a few little different things in your training.
So that cross training is really important, as you were saying, like
the
Pilates, the bike, swimming. You don't have to continuously run. If your body is saying to you, no, stop running, there are other things that you can do to keep that fitness up while you're not running, and to keep your body in some sort of maintenance so that when you come back to running, you're not running from scratch again. It's sort of some sort of box.
You got to realize when you're actually running, you're breaking your body down, right? When you've had particularly a hard run, then when you finish that run, that's when your body's at its weakest point. Yep. So how do you get strong again? You got to recover, right? Your body's at its. So you got to remember at the you've done a hard interval session, you've done a tempo run. That's when your body's at its weakest point. So it needs adaptation. It needs to be able to heal. It needs to be able to regenerate, basically. And if you're always training with DOMS is a very good thing to listen to. Actually, this is an interesting point, because DOMS is a thing where you're feeling like every week you're training, if you're feeling like you can't get on top of the soreness that your body's from each training session, you're probably doing too much. You're overtraining because your body's not actually recovering before you're doing you can have that little bit of stiffness and tightness. It's like, I was a bit domsy after my Sunny Coast race on the weekend, because it was like something that I chucked my body into a little bit, but I was smart enough to pull back a bit just from experience. I pulled it back. But some people that don't do that. And then if you're going and you're getting this DOMS, and the DOMS slowly is building up, it's kind of that repetitive, like that micro tearing I was telling you about.
Yeah.
So you're getting little bits of micro tearing on top of so it's kind of just accumulative. So you kind of like, I tell people they're treading water a little bit. You got that feeling that you're treading water in your training. You're kind of like just trying to keep your head. You're not really feeling like you're progressing, because you're just kind of treading water, and you're not really going anywhere with your training. It's kind of when you're plateauing like that.
Yeah.
So the idea of when you're training, right, is you want to be able to come in, train up, level off, then go up again, level off. Some people, when they're training, they go up and they're down and they're up. They're not progressing in the right way. So that's because they're not having that little bit of time to get that adaptation. So when you're having that little bit of a plateau off time, that's when your body's adapting, and then you want to shoot up again. So think of it like steps. You don't want to be. Think of yourself going up steps. You don't want to be, some people are like the crazy trainers that will go bang and they'll train and then they get injured and then they're down again. They train hard and get injured again. They're kind of doing this up and down kind of movement. And then you got the people that are leveling off because they're domsy. They're training too hard all the time, and they're not getting any improvement because they're not getting that adaptation that's taking place. That your body needs adaptation, and body needs recovery. So it's very important to get that bit of recovery in your training. So
I guess that's why Tim and we do a lot of running, obviously, as everyone knows, but we don't get a lot of injuries, and a lot of our maintenance, touch wood, we do get a lot of body maintenance through Wayne, and we get a lot of advice through Wayne as well. But we do that whole listening to our bodies. If our body is saying you're pushing it too hard, we sort of level it off, like how Wayne is saying, and we don't get for the amount of kilometres that we do each week, we are fairly injury free. Knock on wood again. But sorry, we are following like what Wayne is saying. We stay where we are and then move up again. We don't try and just go up.
Yeah, I guess that's having a good coach that reads your body too. Like if you want to go down that way of getting a coach that has your best interest at heart. Like, I mean, you need someone that's kind of not going to just trying to push you for their own ego and their own kind of, they're just trying to flog you kind of type of coach that's going to, get results. But they're looking at their own coaching as, it's all right. I could get someone to coach, if you know what I mean. I could get someone to coach someone and go, okay, I'm going to flog this person and get results pretty quickly. But you want a coach that's going to have your best heart, and go look at the big picture and go, okay, I've got Tim here, started running when he's mid-30s. I want him to be still running when he's mid-50s. On an attitude, you want a coach that's long term. We don't want to be breaking you after a year. Yeah, we had some good results, but we broke. You're not running anymore. So
and that's what you do for us as well, Wayne. You always make sure that and you've always said that to us. We want to make sure that you guys are running still in your 70s, your 80s. It doesn't have to be marathons, but as long as you're still moving as well, because that is a really big thing.
I don't know how your arthritis in your hands will go when you're in your 70s and 80s.
The elbow.
I'm just mindful of time. We just hit the 1 hour mark. So,
sorry, guys.
One last quick question, Wayne, before we start to wrap up. We've got obviously a marathon in 4 and a bit weeks' time. So
can we pack you into our bag and take you with us?
No, I was just going to say, for these last 4 weeks, we're obviously peaking in our training and then we start to taper. What are the key, very quickly, what are the sort of key things we should be doing from a body maintenance point of view over the next sort of 4 weeks or so leading into a marathon?
Well, I think you guys have got it down pat now. So obviously you factored in your few little massages now, and before you go, you've put in all your base training, as I know you guys kind of periodize your training, and so you've done all that. So you've put in all your work now. So you might have a couple of, like Tony was saying before, some paced runs to do now, like, depending on what your coach has got or what you guys have set yourself out to do, you might have a few pace runs to do. So you've got still a little bit of work to keep your bodies going. But just don't be scared to pull back. Like I said to Tony, you want to get to the line ready to fight and get a performance out. So sometimes you're just better off just pulling back a little bit than overcooking yourself. There's always a little bit of room to go forth. But just keep that consistency is king, I think. Just keep your consistent training going and don't get too excited. I see too many people the last little bit, they're trying to maybe push out a little bit more, and then that's when the injuries kind of can come in, because just keep your pacing strategies right. I don't know if you guys do any intervals or what your pacing strategies are, but just keep your pacing strategies under control and don't try and do anything crazy, really. It's just keeping a good level head. Yeah.
Intervals on the Wednesday before the marathon on the Sunday is not going to help you.
No,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So I guess when you're traveling as well on a plane, you're getting up, you're moving, especially those long haul flights that we're about to get on to do. Get up, move around. When you get off the plane, get off, go for a walk, make sure that you're feeling okay and all of that sort of stuff. Don't stay sedentary and keep the fluids and hydration up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So I guess we're up to Tim's funny, which is,
you're pretty enthusiastic there, Tara.
awesome. I'm always looking forward to this.
Yes,
it's something we all look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah, except for me. Me. I've gone with a massage theme tonight, actually, in honor of our special guest, Wayne. So, Tara, before I met you, I once dated a masseuse.
No,
Did you know that?
No, I
it
didn't.
wasn't me either.
It wasn't Wayno, no. But on the first date, she massaged my shoulders. On the second date, she massaged my feet. On the third date, she gave me a full body massage. But in the end, it never worked out. Do you know why?
Why?
Because she kept giving me mixed massages.
Oh my God, that's so bad.
No.
Not a good one?
No, that's really bad. That's really bad.
Okay, that's a bad one. Okay.
Yeah, sincere apologies to everyone that had to endure that. So
Oh my goodness, yes.
Now I know there's a reason I've never heard that joke. I'm in the massage industry.
Oh my goodness. So Tony, what's coming up on next week's episode? On another note.
Next week, it's really getting real and exciting for all of us as we start to think about what lies ahead. But we start to unpack the Chicago Marathon next week, and we'll have a closer look at what myself and my beautiful wife Sharon will be expecting as we take the flight from Berlin through to Chicago. We'll talk about flight, we'll talk about accommodation, the all-important expo, of course, the race itself, and there's some certain things that make Chicago quite a unique race. So we're diving in and dissecting Chicago Marathon. So it should be a cracker.
Well, we're looking forward to that one, that's for sure. So before we sign off for this episode, I'd really like to thank you, Wayne, for coming onto our podcast. Hopefully everyone's had a good time and learnt some really invaluable stuff from Wayne. I know Tim and I, you're our Bible of knowledge. So thank you so much for all the knowledge you give us as well.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, but for anyone who does live locally in Brisbane or on the north side and wants to see Wayne for some body maintenance, the best way to do it is through the website, the Cooley Health website, and it's just cooleyhealth.com.au. You can book on there. You can have a look at classes, massage, acupuncture, all of those sort of things. Can't recommend the health clinic enough. These guys are amazing. So
thanks again, Wayne.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I hope it helps out a few runners out there, and enjoy your running is the main thing, I think. And hopefully see you guys out there sometime.
Absolutely, you definitely will. So look, that was our 8th episode of the Flying RuNR Podcast. If you liked it, please like and subscribe wherever you've listened to it or watch this episode. Video of this episode will also be available on Spotify, YouTube, and audio will be at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and most other popular podcast platforms. So just remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.
See you later,
guys.